Well, they started the trial for Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, aka Three God, aka Chief, aka a whole bunch of stuff. He been in jail since what, April of 2022? And I'm not sure of all the charges they have on him, but I know that they have charges on him for, REP, Janae, and the revenge stuff that he posted on back when it was Twitter. He posted them to, doing a do, and her testimony, well, her claim was that she was trying to leave again, and he forced her. It didn't look like it in the video, but either way, whatever took place, he got the charges, and he has not been out since he been in. This is really interesting because there is a lot more they could charge him with. But Eligio was looking at a long time. I mean, a long time. And they offered him a plea deal. I don't know if she has to agree with it or she did agree with it, but they offered him a plea deal and he refused it. This is a guy who thought he was God, and he really felt like he was going to beat his case. And it's 2024. So I think he understands that they don't really want to let him out. So
Her last-minute plea deal was rejected. Opening statements started today in the trial of a cult leader accused of multiple charges, including rape and false imprisonment.
Does he have the white around his lips again? Well, I'm not even going to get into that, y'all.
In DeKalb County. 11 Alive's Tracy A. McPeer just stepping out of the courtroom and joins us live in Decatur for what was a busy day, a first day, Tracy.
That's right, and not only did the prosecution and defense deliver their opening statements, today was the first day of testimony, and we got a closer look inside what prosecutors say is Eligio Bishop's cult, Carbon Nation, as a victim took the stand. Now, Eligio Bishop is charged with rape, false imprisonment, and sending nude or sexually explicit videos of the victim without consent that prosecutors say he posted as revenge porn. So far today, we heard opening arguments on both sides as the prosecution described Bishop as a controlling cult leader who traveled with his group from country to country for years, brainwashing followers into following his rules. The defense claimed that the cult itself is irrelevant and any sex or videos were consensual.
You will hear that there was this atmosphere of fear and violence within the group, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Who was going to be next? What the defendant did with
Why he
that
looking
power.
like that?
The answer to that.
Why he looking like he confused and concerned at the same time? I mean, that's a nice jacket, though.
The evidence will show is sex. Nobody said no to the king.
This is not a complicated case, but it becomes extraordinarily complicated when we tie in a bunch of other stuff that doesn't have to do with March 24, 2022. She described making love, and we're all 14 of you guys are adults.
He's referring to a statement she made online about that particular incident, and she did make these statements. Now, Janae, aka Natiri, aka, she had a lot of names too. This girl went to his cult. She left his cult, went to another cult leader, left, and she just been passing her own self around different cults. And she went back and forth with Eligio's cult a few times. There was always this battle to be queen and chiefess, as he called it, and she wanted to be chiefess. And she thought that, after waiting for years for his wife to leave, that she was eventually going to be chiefess, and that did not happen. These chicks was definitely serious about trying to become chiefess, and when they didn't get it and they thought they were going to get it, then it got pretty messy. This is a little complex because as much as I believe Nature Boy needs to go down, it's kind of weird that it happened through Janae. And it happened with this particular incident. Again, she did describe it that way online. And I was surprised when she pressed charges. I wasn't there, so I don't know how it happened or what happened. But I know in the video that we saw, they both were enjoying themselves. So, I mean, I don't know. That's not me saying that what she's claiming happened didn't happen. Okay, so let's be clear on that. However, it's good to see him go down because this dude, I mean, people have died. It's just been a lot. It's been a lot. I've covered this cult years ago. Still have a lot of those videos up on my page. And, I think a lot of this stuff, they're not even streaming, which is good because it's been exhausting with them. It's just good to see that he finally getting his. And he going to spend a good, long, hard time in jail. And he brought it all on himself. Honestly, whether it's really due to this particular incident or not, like, they're charging him on that. And I'm pretty sure they're going to get a conviction, right? But he has to understand he brought this on himself from a lot of his actions. And a lot of things that he said. So... bye-bye, boy.
You know there's a wide discrepancy from someone making love versus someone being raped.
Now, the victim took the stand, and right before lunch, the defense called for a mistrial after the victim described violence against another woman. But the judge denied that. Now, coming up, you'll hear the victim's testimony on what it was like being inside that cult and what happened when she tried to...
Now,
I would turn to Gary Martin Hayes.
I'm not gonna lie. Why are they discussing a cult if they're not charging him on any other cult-like activities? They're just charging him on this particular incident. So honestly, the whole cult thing should not be allowed. So I have to agree with the dodo birds, his play wives that are still advocating for him. I have to agree with them on that. Well, hey.
Convicted killer and ex-cult leader Anna Young has died. The Marietta woman led the House of Prayer cult in Florida. A judge sentenced her to 30 years in prison for the deaths of 2 toddlers in the 1980s. Young had been in prison just 42 days before her death. Joy Fluker, Young's daughter, says Young was in the ICU on oxygen Monday night. This is what Fluker had to say about her experience when we spoke with her earlier this year.
Those are things I can't live with, because I feel like if I live with those, then I'm just as guilty. This is what I'm ashamed of. This is my life sentence.
Former members of the cult say Young, known as Mother Anna, would torture and abuse members for their sins by various means.
Now, this is just another case I happened to stumble upon. Some guy in Sacramento says he had his first son, and the hospital recorded the child as a girl. And they didn't want to correct it.
After having 2 girls, he finally got his son, but not according to the birth certificate.
Yeah, this mistake dragged on for more than 6 months, and it delayed the baby from meeting his relatives. Maybe I can help. Andy Doval Dumont entered the world in April.
This was my first son, so I was extremely happy and excited to know that I'll have a junior, a twin.
Dad Darnell says right after Andy was born, he corrected the staff at Sutter for misspelling his son's middle name. It's the same as Andy's mom and his 2 older sisters.
This was the first clue that there may be an issue.
The souvenir birth certificate from Sutter Medical Center shows Andy's name spelled correctly, a space in the Doval. But weeks later, Andy's social security card showed up, and it's missing that space.
The naming of a child is very important.
Turns out the Sutter verification letter of Andy's birth is also missing that space in both Andy's and Mom's middle names. And when Sacramento County issued the birth certificate, the mistake continued. And on top of that, a new mistake.
I know this may seem petty to some, but this is his child. That's what he named his child. I mean, where's the respect?
Andy is listed as a female.
Wow.
It was, we can kind of understand the name, kind of, not really, but just a little bit. Maybe 2% I kind of understand messing up on the name. But the sex, though,
You have 3 kids, you finally get a son. In the eyes of the government, you have another
I have
daughter.
3 girls.
But Darnell is not laughing about the snowballing issues tied to these mistakes. A trip for Andy to meet relatives in Brazil is off. He can't apply for his son's passport until the issues are fixed. He needs Social Security to reprint that Social Security card. He wants Sutter to fix both errors and admits he was frustrated in November when he showed up to the Labor and Delivery Department. He says they called the cops on him.
Hey, so the issue is this, they don't want you going inside the property. It looks like you were trying to bypass their checkpoints, and you're being hostile towards them, so that's the issue, okay?
And he says Vital Statistics, the agency that oversees birth certificates, told him any changes would be an amendment attached to the original birth certificate instead of issuing a new one. And that means Andy's original document would always show he was born a female.
He may have to deal with this for the rest of his life.
We reached out to Sutter, which claims when it was notified of the mistake shortly after Andy's birth, it fixed it, saying this is an isolated clerical error which was resolved by Sutter Health 9 months ago. We regret that neither Sutter nor the parents who verified the accuracy of the birth certificate following the baby's birth caught the initial error before the record was finalized. But Darnell says he did point out the inaccuracy right there at the hospital after Andy was born. But look what happened after we got involved. Andy got this, a brand new original birth certificate, not an amendment, with a name and his sex correct. And he then got his passport. And here he is, in Brazil, meeting his relatives. Are you finding any humor in any of this?
Humor? No, I haven't found any humor in any of this.
That's so disrespectful.
Well, a big part of the frustration was how...
That's so disrespectful.